It's the Final Word World Cup Daily. Adam Collins and Cam Ponsonby with you in London. The action today, back at Eden Gardens, India playing South Africa, top versus second, and that's how it will stay. Our coverage for Westfield, London, Westfield, Stratford City, more extra, less ordinary. Cam, tell us about this fixture in 30 seconds.
India won by loads again, but the story of the day really is Virat Kohli. He tied Sachin Tendulkar's record for 49 ODI centuries. He paced his innings very well, or maybe a bit too slowly. We'll get into that later. Got India up to 320. It looked like it was a lot of runs. It was a lot of runs. South Africa crumbled, 83 all out. Jadeja gets his first World Cup fifer. India, the unstoppable machine. Virat Kohli, the ultimate dominant force. They carry on.
Yeah, they won by 243 runs after amassing 326 for 5, which doesn't sound like an imposing total, but the way that pitch slowed down, and Kohli got on the front foot and discussed that in his post-innings interview. He wanted people to know, it wasn't a question anything to do with the pace of his innings, but he wanted people to understand that he'd received instructions from the team camp, from back in the dressing room, about the way they wanted him to play that innings and drag it as deep as possible and give themselves some latitude in the last couple of overs, and they get up to 326, and then from there, it's a procession. South Africa, very similar to the way Sri Lanka were bowled out. Well, not really, because the Sri Lanka one was more dramatic, but the overall tally, all out 83 in 27.1 overs. South Africa's worst performance with the bat in all World Cups. And India now confirmed they will finish top. They can't be overtaken. And South Africa, who have already qualified, but now might finish second or third.
I hadn't really thought of that, but if you take the Sri Lanka match into account as well, the last two matches, India have bowled teams that they're 140 for 20 bowling in their last two matches.
Incredible.
It's quite offensively strong. But Virat Kohli, I remember Jeff Lemon, you might have heard of him, he told me a stat that Virat Kohli was 24 of 25 in the last 10 overs of today's game. And it did seem bizarre. I remember you look at the card and you go, Virat Kohli's held this innings back here. He's kind of tipped and tapped his way to a century.
Yep.
Whereas actually, I think India just kind of belted the power play. They really got after South Africa's seamers. It was the first time that South Africa had to, or the second time even, they had to turn to a sixth bowler in the competition. Yeah. They are so kind of bare bones, like cock-out cricket, basically. They have six batters, they have five bowlers, and they go, this is how we're going to play, this is how we're going to beat you. And India stretched them today and basically broke the back of South Africa, where they went, right, you're going to have to turn to another bowler because we've belted your seam bowlers. And also then when it came to the reverse, it was like, well, we've now got 320, we take a couple of quick wickets. It was a very quick collapse. And so Virat Kohli, as you touched on before, it's so rare you hear players say this in a press, in the in-between bit. He went, we're well above par.
Yeah.
We've got loads. Don't get me wrong. Normally, you want to give your bowlers a bit of a leeway. Go, if we bowl well, it should be enough. He went, no, we've got loads. It's really, really tough out there. And so it proved.
Yeah, it did. And you're right about the flyer as well. They bring up their 50 with a lovely Rohit Sharma pick-up shot halfway through the fifth over. That six went way into the crowd over deep mid-wicket. And when he was dismissed, Rohit Sharma, it was against the flow of play. Great catch from Bavuma at mid-off. He thwacked it, flat batted it out to him there.
Aesthetic catch. He kind of lined himself up, got low, fingers up.
Yeah, Bavuma, fabulous fielder. The Australian way, fingers up and all the rest.
The correct way.
The correct way. Oh, you think that too?
I'm safer with my fingers up. So maybe I'm an Aussie. Who knew?
Yeah, maybe in your soul you're more Australian than you think. But yeah, South Africa go around. Jansen was targeted inside the power play. He conceded 94 runs today, Big Marco, in 9.4 overs, which is the most expensive spell ever for a South African at a World Cup. And then they're batting with when de Kock chopped on in the second over, in Siraj's first over again, getting a breakthrough straight away. Siraj, he's bounced back well after a couple of middling games in the middle of the tournament. Then Bavuma is bowled by an absolute worldly Jadeja delivery, very similar to the ball that Maharaj sent down to get rid of Gill in the first innings, both of them in their first over, getting real purchase out of this turning Eden Gardens pitch. And I think that will be an ongoing part of the conversation about the semi-final at Calcutta. Whoever plays that game will look back at this as a reference point. So, you can get out of the blocks when the pitch is at its truest, before there's any scuffing of it and all the rest of it, and before the ball gets soft and worn down. You have to make your runs there. You have to go for it. You have to back yourself.
I kind of thought with Maharaj's delivery to Shubman Gill, it is kind of going down. You have to go and watch it. It's kind of potentially one of the balls of the tournament. Yeah. The most kind of stereotypical, cliched, perfect left-arm spinner's delivery. But when it happened, I kind of thought back to, I remember a friend of mine playing a football match however long ago, and for whatever reason the ref didn't turn up, and so they were reffing each other, and his team were reffing the first half, and an egregious foul was committed and just not given, waved away, and one of the oppo, rather than getting angry, just went, don't worry lads, we ref next half. And it's kind of like, it happened, and I went, fuck, Jadeja's got a bowl on that as well. It was kind of a good news in that moment for South Africa, but in the long term it kind of showed what was to come. And it was the same with...
It's like when you're playing in a club game and a ball keeps low and you know that you're going to have to... Don't mind that, boys. Don't mind that.
But it was then... I was still really sceptical. Like, and who the fuck am I to like doubt what Virat Kohli saying at the halftime break? But when he was going, we've got loads, I went, do you? Are you sure? Or have you just got 100 off 120 and actually South Africa are going to come out and belt it? And then it was literally 4 balls into South Africa's innings, and I saw like De Kock played a miss at like Bumrah, and he just wasn't getting near it. And I went, oh wow, they've got loads. Like, and that's easy to say with hindsight speaking, but at that moment in time, it was like, oh wow, okay, India are well ahead here.
Especially with India's outstanding fast bowling attack, which we spent a lot of time talking about after the Sri Lanka win. Just to go a bit deeper here on Kohli, right? So he pulls level with Sachin at the same ground where he made his first one-day 100 back in 2009 against Sri Lanka at Eden Gardens. He woke up this morning, he said to Harsha Bhogle, believing that today would be something different and something special, being his birthday. All the energy around will he equal and break the Tendulkar record? Well, he's equalled it now. And look, there was a slowdown on the way to 100, but I'm starting to better understand this because there's often comments in our YouTube channel and on social media as well when Jeff and I have been in the past, I wouldn't say critical, I'd say like cynical, which is our job to be cynics in the media, about the way in which milestones have been sought after, especially with Kohli across the journey. But as we've been told repeatedly, culturally in Indian cricket, milestones mean the world. They mean so much. And what Kohli does by reaching 3 figures is it energises the rest of the dressing room. You know, he can get out for 92 and the difference is marginal in terms of the game state of play, but it breathes life into the side and into the broader Indian cricketing populace in ways that it may not quite in the kind of cricket that we've grown up playing or something like that. I'm probably not articulating it very well, but this has been a strong theme of the feedback whenever we've spoken about this around Kohli. Just on tons, after the long drought, which lasted... Gosh, it was the better part of 3 years, wasn't it? November 2019, where he made a Test century at Calcutta until I know it was the day the Queen died when he made that T20 100 at the Asia Cup last year. He's now made 9 centuries in that span of time, 9 international hundreds, 2 Test match tons, one at Ahmedabad, which I had the pleasure of seeing and calling, 6 in one-day cricket, and that aforementioned T21 to make 79 all up in international cricket. He's only played 277 innings for it.
It's incredible.
He was so deferential to Tendulkar when speaking to Harsha after play, saying that, I've got the quote written down here, it was, I'm never going to be as good as him. His batting was perfection. I actually think that Tendulkar made 4900s in 452. I mean, purely on that ratio alone, you can make the case that Kohli is the better of the two. Not to say that Tendulkar's contribution wasn't gigantic as it was, but I've just been kind of sitting back and thinking about this in a wider context. There isn't going to be a lot of one-day cricket played over the next 4 years. We know that. The format is in decline, sadly. We would love it not to be, but the way that the Future Tours program is marked up and the way that we know the 50-over World Cup is being undermined by some various forces within the global game, I just wonder, Kohli turned 35 today. If he makes his 50th one-day 100 and India win the World Cup, I just wonder whether he might retire from the format. I mean, does that... Because on the basis that the 50-over cricket he'll play in the next 4 years won't have anywhere near the same meaning as the build-up to a home World Cup and all the rest.
I was thinking about that on the way over here, and it does have that kind of sense of like inevitability and like fate dictates that it has to be the image of Kohli on his teammates' shoulders, replacing Tendulkar of the 2011 one, having scored his 50th ODI 100 in the World Cup final at home. Like, come on. Like, if I was there, I'd be kicking them over against the Netherlands. Fuck the semi-final. Don't care. I'm going all chips in on having that kind of perfect finale. And then, as you said, he could absolutely go on for another 4 years and make it to South Africa and Zimbabwe and Namibia. But like as a cricketing high, how that could be beaten winning that home World Cup. And I was just thinking about Virat Kohli today, like, he is almost like a science experiment example of like the perfect storm of a kind of sporting cult hero, basically. He's extremely talented. He's extremely talented at a sport in a nation which has kind of 1 billion fans, basically. It's all these kind of movements coming together, so you have this person who's elevated above everyone else. He's aesthetically, technically perfect. He's a good-looking boy.
Articulate.
articulate.
Social media age, which means he's been so clippable as a player.
Keeps going. He also uses the air of Tendulkar is using the MRF bat. He's literally had the baton passed on to him. You have that kind of like echo of history as every time he lifts up his bat, you go, God, this was the lad who took over from Tendulkar, and he's still using that same bat kind of thing.
And they had that crossover because they played together in the 2011 World Cup final.
Absolutely, and he's still, even within all that, he still has the kind of the hero's kind of like broken-hearted tale where it's like, will he ever win that IPL? Like domestically, he has the kind of tragedy tale that's going as well. He also has his story arc of, I've had these through kind of 3 years of being a mere mortal where all of a sudden it had fallen away, and now my comeback tale is a home World Cup which peaks at the World Cup final. Like, it is all kind of ludicrously wrapped up to be this perfect story and have the final kind of like bow kind of drawn on it, pulled on it in 2 weeks' time.
And he seems so relaxed and happy. This was clear. Watching him up close in the Test series earlier this year when Australia were there, he is at peace. And he wasn't at peace when he was towards the end of his captaincy tenure. I remember it was against South Africa when playing there, when he was like yelling into the stump mic, when he was unhappy with a third umpire decision. He was frazzled, and of course that wouldn't have been helped by the fact that he wasn't making centuries anymore. The ton machine had stopped working for a time. It's back in action now, of course. But you think about the cricketers who reach their mid-30s and they're at peace, and that certainly feels the way for Kohli. So sure, if he were to pull the pin on one-day cricket, in all probability he won't hit 100 international hundreds, right? And that's fine. But it's about picking the right moment to jump off. And we saw the Tendulkar tweet today, didn't we? About it was 365 days for me between 49 and 50, and let's hope it's only a few days for you. The other thing about the way this Indian machine is cranking up, I don't think a side has ever dominated the group stages of a World Cup quite like this. The reference point here is Australia in 2007. They might have had a slightly better net run rate, but different format. There was groups of four, then there was the Super 8s and all the rest of it. This just feels like they are toying with sides. And there's still room for growth, you could say, through Surya Kumar Yadav, who didn't make bulk runs again today, got out in weird circumstances off the back of his bat or off his glove when reverse sweeping. And they don't have Hardik Pandya, who's been ruled out of the tournament.
Who needs him? Doesn't matter.
But I mean, you look at it, the margin tonight, 243 runs, Jadeja, his first 5-wicket haul, all the bowlers playing their role again in that squeeze against the side who we all kind of think is the second most likely to win the tournament. They have the Netherlands to finish, so they'll, in all probability...
I reckon they might win by 1,000.
Well, their net run rate will go up, further from where it is, based on the way they're playing at the moment, which does, we've seen that before in sporting sides that peak a little bit too early in these tournaments. You want to play your very best cricket at the end, but it's not a bad thing that they are walking this at the moment. And like I say, I think their form to this point is as good or better than anything we've seen in a World Cup ever.
Well, if you just go back through the results, so today they won by 243 runs. Last week, 302, or against Sri Lanka, 302 runs. England 100 runs. New Zealand win by 4 wickets with 12 balls remaining. That's their closest match in this competition.
And that's when they were trying to nurse Kohli to 100.
Yeah, they were cruising. It was fine. I looked at that and went, oh, 4 wickets. Was that a close game? No, it wasn't.
That should have been dealt with 5 overs earlier.
Bangladesh 7 wickets, Pakistan 7 wickets, Afghanistan 8 wickets, Australia 6 wickets, and that was the only real point of jeopardy that India have had in this whole competition. Was the first 2 overs of that chase against Australia, where again they were only having to chase 200, and they were 2 for 3 as it were. Since that point, they literally haven't put a foot wrong.
And some of it's been, just to go on what you ran through there, it's by runs recently and by wickets earlier. They had 5 convincing victories chasing, and we thought, right, this is the formula for India, batting under lights. They'll back their supreme chaser in Kohli. And, Shreyas Iyer made a contribution today, which we haven't touched on yet, which is timely. Now they're doing it batting first. They elected to bat first today. Yeah. And I know that there's a comparative advantage there with South Africa, who love to bat first too, and there'll be something in that and the surface that we've already touched on. But that they've done it at the start of the tournament as a chasing team and now as a batting first side. The flip of that, Cam, is that South Africa have absolutely not done it in this tournament when batting second. That has been comfortably the split. They've batted first, and we went through the numbers the other day. Their final 10 overs when batting first, they've had scores ranging between 120 and 144 runs in the final 10, but they can't get out of first gear when chasing.
So I looked this up. So Jeff was messaging me earlier about this kind of like death over statistics, and in this World Cup, of the kind of the batters with the best strike rates in overs 40 to 50, of the top 7, 6 of them are South African. Basically, the only person who isn't there is Temba Bavuma, and he missed a few matches, and he also opens the fucking batting basically. And they have this like incredible kind of strategy of, right, we're going to score 13s in the last 10, and that's just not. It's incredibly exciting to watch, but it has its downfalls as a strategy if you're for instance, lose a toss.
Yep.
And so for me, that is literally the only way I can plot out a world where India don't win this World Cup is South Africa finish second or third, win their semi-final, and win the toss in the final. Ahmedabad, have a bat and get 350 on the board. What a 50th century that would be for Virat Kohli if he chases that down.
Quite, yeah.
But it does require, and I think my point in there that I've kind of wrapped up in incorrectly is India are the complete team. For them to lose just in a kind of stereotypical cricket match, you need to play against the team who has the kind of highest possible bar. And the highest possible bar is the South African team batting first. I don't think there's any other combination of teams, of matchups, of whatever, where India are not stronger than the opposition.
Yeah, it's a point well made. And look, their two back over specialists have been Klaasen and Miller time.
Yeah.
And both of them got out sweeping today. I think Klaasen had 1 from 10 when he was out or something like that. He's not been 1 from 10 since he was a child, I suspect, in any game of cricket he's played. But that pressure that India can put on a middle order side, and Klaasen was one of the wickets that Jadeja picked up, but with Bumrah giving away no runs, going at 2.8 and over. Siraj 1 for 11 from 4. Jadeja, his aforementioned 5 for 33. Shami more wickets, 2 for 18 from 4, does it every single time. Then Kuldeep chips in with 2 for 7 from 5.1 when the match was dead, but still getting his name in the book twice to build that confidence that you want coming into the elimination stage. South Africa never had the chance to do what they do best, which is put fielding sides under pressure. And they play, in all probability, their semi-final will be at Calcutta. It would require Pakistan finishing 4th for that game to be at Calcutta.
Yeah.
So in any other scenario, be it Australia or unlikely as it is, Afghanistan, or more likely New Zealand, India will play the Mumbai semi-final, which will mean South Africa will end up back at this ground. So all the more important the coin comes down, because you can guarantee whoever they play in the semi is going to have a bat.
I think something that we haven't touched on yet is Ngidi kind of pulled a hammy basically today.
Yeah.
And he did go out and have a bat, so we don't know yet kind of how serious the injury is. And dependent on, I guess, if they do have that semi-final in this location, it's actually not as much of a problem because Coetzee will come back in. They maintain the balance of the side where Shamsi and Maharaj are both in the team. But if it gets to a final and they go out on Ahmedabad and they want to have the extra seamer, then they're in a kind of bit of a pickle, because then all of a sudden you're going down to kind of like Lizard Williams, with all the best will in the world to him. He is kind of the 5th choice of that string. So South Africa, I don't think. We said this, I think we spoke about this before in times, they're not a team set up for close matches. They're a team designed to thrash teams, or they're a team designed to get thrashed. They live on the edge. The game didn't go their way today. I don't think they can read too much into it. I think where they'll be most disappointed is they didn't kind of, even in defeat, kind of fall down fighting. They didn't have that kind of moment of power play where they were really putting a kind of some emphasis back on kind of Bumrah and Siraj. And I know that sounds like a cliche, and it often is a cliche, but I genuinely think it's very kind of psychologically important for this group of players, the way they play, that when faced with this Indian attack, which in all likelihood or in all hope for South Africa they'll face again in the final, to have landed a few blows basically and kind of been like, you know what, you might roll us out for 150, but we're going to have got there in 22 overs, and like you'll have got an idea of what we might be able to do to you in a couple of weeks' time.
And you can already imagine what Australia are thinking watching South Africa today. They're
win
probable
the toss,
but also go after Janssen in the power play. Right, so Janssen's been able to bowl to teams because he's obviously a very gifted cricketer, Marco Jansen, and takes early wickets and is hard to get away. But India made a point of going after him today. That was clearly a plan, and I'm sure Australia will copy that plan because he didn't come back well and continued to go around all the way to the end.
But Jansen had two. He bowled 2 amazing wide deliveries. He kind of shoved him all the way down the leg side and shoved him around the offside. So something was obviously kind of off to them. They kind of went after him, and he was the bowler who wasn't going to complete his 10 until Ngidi kind of pulled his hamstring. He's been having such a fantastic World Cup. As of the last round of fixtures, he took a 3 for that. Took him to kind of joint level for leading wicket takers. So there's
no question about his capacity as well. It's like how teams will deal with him now.
Yeah, I'd be again, if I was kind of South African coaching team, I'd be like, mate, don't worry about it. It's one bad day. We carry on. I think if you get if Marco Jansen gets too bogged down in this, maybe I'm just Washington Freedom's finest. They'll back him all the
way. Their next game, or their last game, is against Afghanistan. They've got a break now. South Africa, Bangladesh are playing Sri Lanka tomorrow, and then Afghanistan are playing Australia on Tuesday. And India's final group game is against the Dutch. Okay, time for us to go to the final word, Hall of Fame. The Final Word World Cup Hall of Fame is brought to you, as always, by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. I don't think we've had a chance yet to talk about Khufu. We've got some wonderful copy here, which I went through the other night. I won't do that again, but I'll. It's so good, I almost want to read it again. This is virtual reality, and it takes you back to the age of the pyramids, an experience that's so immersive. As my 3-year-old daughter comes over and probably wants. You need a wee. Do you want to come and say hello? Come here, Winnie. It's such a successful immersive experience for. Oh no, you're gonna have a wee over there. That's fine. Go on your potty. Good girl. You can come here later if you want. The British. Which gallery is it? It's the British Museum. Have tried to put it on display. Oh, yeah. So it's good gear, right? It's called Khufu. Now you book your tickets before the end of November for this amazing experience, and you save 33% off for your journey. Google Horizon of Khufu for more information. Horizon of Khufu is exclusive to Westfield Stratford City. More extra, less ordinary. Cam, what is your final word moment of the day while I go and wipe my little girl's bum?
My final word moment of the day goes back to Keshav Maharaj's delivery to Shubman Gill. Kind of a fantastically beautiful delivery, but was made all the better by Shubman Gill's disbelief, going as far as to review a bold. It was clean bowled, and he said to the umpire, "Can we have another look at that, please? There's no way someone's been that much better than me." Apart from Winnie, who's better than everyone. Yeah. She used to come on back in the day. She spent a lot of time on camera with Jeff and me when she was a little baby. Right. We'd often record with her strapped to my chest, but it's been a while. Hello, Winnie. My final word moment of the day, as I scroll down my page, Aidan Markram bowling was noteworthy. I thought, Jerry Kimber made this point on his Twitter account that they've been, and you did too, that they've got a plan. But seeing Markram get clouted as well in his second over. How about I think Jeff had this little nugget the other day about the Kohli masks. Apparently everyone at the stadium today was going to be given a Virat Kohli mask. That didn't end up coming to fruition, but they did have all the phone lights on when he was on 99, which made for a nice effect around Eden Gardens. And also at the ground itself. The fireworks display when they won the game, fair income, it was longer than the fucking fireworks at the Sydney New Year's Eve on the Harbour Bridge. Which, by the way, if you get excited by fireworks on the Harbour Bridge, seriously, you've got to sort of, get more hobbies. But as a non-Australian, that's surely bucket list to get down there, see it all go. Mate, if you spend New Year's Eve in Australia, I'll give you a much better night out. That's fine, no worries. Yeah, than watching fireworks on a bridge. But the point is, went forever. So that's it for me. Do you reckon we're done? We're never done, but we can be done. Yeah, can't stop, won't stop. We've got a weekly show that Jeff and I are recording tomorrow. If you like what we do, patreon.com/The Final Word. We've also got another episode dropping on Monday. I won't tell you what it is exactly. Massive interview coming up later in the week as well. I'm not sure when we'll drop it, but we've got a big interview in the works. Of activity, the Final Word. So much going on. If you like what we do, as I say, patreon.com/The Final Word. Thanks for listening. India romping it. They win by 200 and lots against South Africa. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks to Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. More extra, less ordinary. Good night.